Good morning, 8 o'clock in Aberdeenshire. Only just though, it's only just a few hundred metres over the border I think from Perthshire. That's the car, sat in the car park on a very, very beautiful, cold, still, frosty morning, and according to the car it's -5, although 5 or 6 miles further south on the way up, right down at the bottom in the glen, it said it was -11 on the way up, so in a way I'm kind of glad it's a bit warmer up here. Headed up the highland over there today with the snowshoes this time, and it looks like I might need them. As you can see, this footpath goes all the way to Glen Isla, which is one of the Angus glens over to the from east of here. I love being out in the middle of nowhere in Scotland and coming across paths like these. It's easy to think now, when these glens are uninhabited, that there was never anyone living here and it's always been like this, but of course it wasn't, and there were lots of people living here, and these were routes for cattle drovers and people just going about their business and getting from one place to the next, from one glen to the next, trading with each other. So you do feel like you're walking in the footsteps of history, walking these paths. The reason I've chosen this particular area to walk in today, well, it has the snow, that's one thing, and there was a good forecast for blue skies, but the Avalanche Information Service had forecast substantial risk of avalanches above 750 metres on southern and east facing slopes. So I've plotted a day walk that's going to take me mostly over flat plateau type ground, avoiding any steep ground. I did fancy going over to the west coast, but the hills there tend to be steeper, more pointy, and I didn't want to be fretting too much about avalanches today, so that's why I'm here. Snow's getting a bit deep now, so I'm going to try and make it a bit easier on myself. Well, it's suddenly got much colder in this wind, so I've resorted to extreme measures to protect my nose and my ears. My very fancy Ninja Clava. There, toasty. It is important to keep your nose and ears covered up because frostbite's not that common in Scotland, but frost nip is. And your nose sort of goes a white waxy colour, which has happened to me once when it was -20 wind chill or something. And then that's the first stage of frostbite, long term, I guess. But mine warmed up, thankfully, and then it was like having sunburn. It just all peeled off. But you can do yourself damage. Another adjustment, just adjusting the length of the poles. It's just one of those days when there's having to stop a lot just to adjust things so everything just feels right. Some days you can just stride out from the car and everything sort of feels, the rucksack feels right, your poles feel right, the boots, everything feels right. Sometimes things don't feel right and it's just a bit of adjusting, but I think I'm finally in the zone. I'm practically at the top of Cairn and Turk now, and then it's all just on the plateau, so it should be easy walking. It is cold though, even though the balaclava's only been off about 30 seconds, I can feel it icing up already. Nice views of the Cairngorms though, over there. That's Benvironment, the other side of Braemar, which is tucked away over there somewhere. But that's the heart of the Cairngorms over there. Ben McDouey and the Larrigrew. All those famous places. Looking very, very snowy at the moment. Snowier than it is here. They seem to have caught more of the snow. up on the plateau. I didn't go to the top of Cairngorms Turk because it was a bit rocky and I got my snowshoes on and I didn't think I was going to get through actually. I thought I was practically there, so I didn't mind not going to the top. But I'm up on the plateau, really cold. There's nothing as you can't see anything. It's a proper Arctic-like environment. If there had been sun, it might have been a bit warmer and a bit easier to deal with the cold, but it's verging on unpleasant how cold it is, so I won't have the full day that I planned on having. This must be what it's like walking in the polar regions. You just have white land, sky, just a horizon and nothing else. It's quite intimidating. Well, here we are at the summit, Cairn of Clasher. I don't know if it's Cairn or Calm. I'm not getting a map out to check. My hands are freezing. It's a little bit frustrating, I suppose. You can see where the blue sky is. It's just in an enormous arc from one side of the sky to the other. But it's just not overhead. And over there, those cliffs, you can see the crags. That's something I did want to see today, which is why I gave up going to Tom Booyah, but I'm determined to go over and take a look at that. That's one of my favourite spots in the country. It's called Cairngorms Glen. It's a nature reserve. It's quite spectacular, so hopefully you'll get a good view of that. Oh, there we go. Sit down behind the cairn, which is pretty much the only shelter for miles. Yeah, that's the Cairngorms for you. It's quite intimidating. There's no shelter. There's the wind howls. It's so cold. And then it was touch and go there for a moment. I thought this is no longer fun, and I thought I was going to head down. But put another layer on. The wind's died down a bit. I've got a bit higher. It's got a bit brighter, and it's all fine again. Ooh, beard's freezing up already. It does highlight, I suppose, how dangerous a place the Cairngorms can be. It can change for better or for worse very, very quickly. And when I first moved up to Scotland, I think the Cairngorms, for a year or two maybe, they were quite an intimidating presence in my head. And I didn't avoid them necessarily, but I'd read so much about them and how high the plateau was and how unrelenting it was and how severe the weather could be and how big the distances were, and the skies were huge and there was nothing to gauge distance at all, nothing, no markers at all. And yeah, I think I was quite scared of them in my head for a while. But I've lost that fear now anyway. I've just left with a healthy respect, especially on a day like today, when it is bitterly cold, really bone-numbingly cold. So yeah, I don't have that fear in my mind anymore. That place is reserved for the Isle of Skye now, the Black Coolin. They're now the place that in my head I fear somewhat, actually. Oh, I've been looking forward to this. It's so important to have a warm drink with you on a day like today. And cake. Always remember cake. Just been tightening my boots and haven't actually noticed inches of ice I've accumulated on the front of my shoes. How long that's been there. Anyway, time to move on, off to Cairngorms Glen. Feeling warmer now.